Hey guys, what's going on? Phoenix here. Today I want to go over runes and masteries on Riven, and when you should go which masteries. The runes are pretty much the same for every game, but we'll go over those a little bit as well. I did prepare a script for this, but it sounded really weird, so I'm just gonna do all of this naturally. I'm not going over a script or anything like that because it just sounds really weird when I read off a script. So, anyways, we're going to go left to right, top to bottom. In the first tree, we have Ferocity. And just a quick note, 90% of our matchups, we want to be going Fervor. At max level, we get like 64 damage each auto. We get 64 extra damage from Fervor each auto. So obviously this is much better than Thunderlords, which only gives you like 30 damage each proc on Thunderlords. So we want to go Fervor 90% of our matchups just because we're doing a lot of extended trades, and that's how a lot of our matchups work out. If you're not doing extended trades and you're bursting, then you want to go Thunderlords. But for the most part, the only matchups that are really bursty like that are like Cunning, Teemo. That's about it. That's about it. Maybe like Pantheon or Renekton. But you want to go Thunderlords either when you go lethality or when you want to burst. So we're not going to be going Thunderlords very often, if at all. And then Storm Raiders. Storm Raiders is okay if you know for a fact that you're going to do really well on lane. Maybe if you're up against like a GP or someone, and it needs to be someone that's squishy, because it only procs if you deal 30% of their max health in 2.5 seconds. So obviously if you're going against a tank, it's going to be harder to deal 30% of their health. So we want to be taking Storm Raiders against squishies, if that's what you want to take. But honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just stick with Fervor Thunderlords because they give you actual stats in combat and really nice stats at that. Okay, so let's hop into the Ferocity tree. So the first two masteries we have is Fury and Sorcery. So something to keep in mind, and a lot of low elo players like just go over Sorcery and they see that it does ability damage and they're like, oh, well, Riven's not AP, that doesn't matter. But the thing is that Sorcery is actually, it's ability damage, it's not ability power. The difference between ability damage and ability power is that ability damage can be whatever. It can be AD, it can be AP, it can even be true damage. It kind of just depends on what kind of damage your ability does. So obviously Riven is all AD, or mostly AD. So this 2% increased ability damage, this translates to AD. Translates to 2% increased AD. And with Riven scaling in her abilities that do more damage percentage-wise, based on how much AD you have, Sorcery's a really, really good mastery. So I definitely recommend going Sorcery, especially for all of you new Riven players. I definitely recommend that. And then next we have Fury. Fury's it gives attack speed, and it's definitely worse than Sorcery, but the thing about Fury is that those of you who are uncomfortable animation canceling or having a lot of trouble with that, this will help out with that. This obviously it makes your attacks faster, and this makes animation canceling even more seamless. So if you have trouble in that, you can go Fury, but I would definitely recommend Sorcery because it does percentage damage, and then Riven's default scaling is also percentage-based damage, so that's really, really good for Riven. Next we have Fresh Blood and Feast. Obviously Exposed Weakness is completely out of the question here. With Fresh Blood, the reason we go Fresh Blood is because you just get more value out of it as a melee champ. Your first basic attack against the champion deals an additional 10 plus 1 damage per level. So at level 18 you get 28 damage, and it has a 6-second cooldown. Whereas Feast, killing a unit restores 20 health and it has a 30-second cooldown. So in 30 seconds you can use Fresh Blood. Let's see, 6. Oh, wait, yeah, I gotta do my math on my fingers. you can use Fresh Blood 4 times before you get to use Feast once. And 4 times, at level 1, it'd be 4 times 11. So 4 times 11 is 44. So we get 44 damage over 28 seconds compared to 20 health over 30 seconds. So obviously Fresh Blood's going to be much better. The only matchups we don't want to be taking Fresh Blood in is matchups like Cunning or Teemo, like people that are ranged and you don't trade with very often. Because obviously you're not going to be auto-attacking them very much. Unless you're like trying to burst them. So Feast would be much better just because you'd use it more often than you would Fresh Blood. But yeah, a majority of the time we want to go Fresh Blood. So in the next row we have Vampirism and we have Natural Talent. Vampirism is my preference. This is honestly like really debated, these two masteries. Vampirism's good if you go lifesteal. It's nice if you incorporate some lifesteal in your build because it makes the lifesteal, it increases lifesteal by 2%, which is pretty nice. But also, Natural Talent, sure you don't get the AP out of it, but it still has AD. So if you're not building a lot of lifesteal, then you want Natural Talent just so you get the AD stats. So this is honestly up to preference once again, and it's what you build. Majority of time, personally, I go Vampirism, but if you're building Lethality or you don't incorporate a lot of lifesteal in your build, then you want to go Natural Talent. And then in the next row, we have Bounty Hunter, we have Doubleedged Sword, and Battle Trance. Honestly, Doubleedged Sword, in my opinion, isn't very valuable on Riven. Unless, like, the only exception would be if it was like a full... if the enemy team was 100% squishy, like every single one of them was squishy, then I think Double-Edged Sword would... I don't know. Even then, it'd be kind of debatable. I personally don't like Double-Edged Sword just because they take 1.5 additional damage. It honestly doesn't, like, add up to that much. Like, if you have... Well, actually, it kind of does. If you have 1,100 health, or if you have 1,000 health and you take 150 extra damage... like on no cooldown. It has no cooldown. So this is just period. Like, you're going to be taking 150 extra damage. I don't know how that translates, like, statistically, but I just don't like that. I don't like the fact that, without cooldown, you're taking 150 extra damage. That's a lot of damage to be taking. Sure, you get the 3% increased damage, which is nice, but you also get 3% increase with Battle Trance and Bounty Hunter if you get the stacks out of it. So Double-Edged Sword's out of the question. We want to go either Bounty Hunter or Battle Trance. If you're not too sure, how the game's gonna go, how everything's gonna play out, I would definitely go Battle Trance. It's more of a safer option. It just straight up gives you the 3% increased damage when you're in combat, and it appears to not have a cooldown, which is really nice. But if you're confident that you're going to do really well, or maybe the game's going to go on for a while, then you can go Bounty Hunter. And something to keep in mind about this is that it does give you increased damage for each champion that you kill, but it's each unique champion. So if you kill the top laner twice, then you're only going to get 1% increase. Because, they're not unique after the first time. So the max you can have on Bounty Hunter is 5%. Which is still a lot. I mean, 5% is really nice, but, this is unique. So you have to kill everyone on the team, on the enemy team, to get the 5% from this. It isn't just, like, pub stomping top lane. So in the next row, obviously, we want to go Battering Blows. We're not AP. We don't need Piercing Thoughts. And then finally, we want Fervor. Warlords, honestly, it just isn't that good. Like, it's not in a good position right now. And on Riven specifically, it's not really that good. So we're going to go Fervor. I could go into detail about it, but I'd rather not. We'll just keep it at that. Okay, so in the Resolve tree, we have Recovery and we have Unyielding. Unyielding gives bonus armor and magic resist. Like bonus of both, bonus armor and magic resist. So what bonus armor and magic resist is magic resist and armor that comes from items. And obviously, you know, we're not building tanky very often, so we usually don't want to go unyielding. The only exception I'd say is if stuttering. If the entire enemy team is like AD, you can go unyielding plus fearless and then just stack armor. Like go ninja tabbies, go GA, go Omen, and you'll be like a super tank. And then you can also have damage on top of that with like Death Dance, Bloodthirster, Hydra, I don't know, Last Whisper, stuff like that. So it's really nice. But other than that, we want to be going recovery just because it's our only other option, and you know the health regen's kind of nice, I guess. In the next row, we want tough skin. We're not roaming so much to the point where explorers like really necessary. And Siege Master doesn't give us that good of stats. Tough skin's honestly just like nice to have. You take 2 less damage, but the thing is that once again this doesn't have a cooldown. So if you take 1,000 fights. And if you take like 100 fights throughout a game and you take 2 less damage from each auto, then you're taking like 2,000 plus reduced damage over the course of a game. So it honestly starts to add up, and that's what's really nice about this. And then in the next row we have Runic Armor and Veteran Scars. These ones are really debatable too, but it's pretty simple. You want to go Runic Armor for the scaling. Like if you think that the game's going to go on really long, you want to go Runic Armor just because it scales really well. It gives us some really nice stats. And then Veteran Scars is nice for early game specifically, because the early health means that we get to take more damage. So if we have 50 more health, that means that it's going to take 2 more autos to kill us. So if you want to fight early, I'd recommend Veteran Scars. Otherwise, I'd definitely go Runic Armor. So for me personally, I go Runic Armor like 90% of the time. But like I said, if you're gonna fight early, then go Veteran Scars. And then finally, in this last row here, we don't need to worry about this because we're never going Colossus or anything like that. We used to, but we don't do that anymore. So on the final row here, we have Insight and Perseverance and Fearless. Perseverance just out of the question. This gives us percent-based health regen. We're not going to be going tanky, so health regen's not going to do too much for us. And you know, we're not going to be building items that give us more health regen or anything like that, so we don't really need this. Insight's really nice because it reduces the cooldown of Flash and Teleport, and it, let me do this on calculator. I think 300 times 15 is like 45 or something like that. By 0.15, my bad. 300 times 0.15. So yeah, it's 45. Wow, I actually got that right. So this reduces the cooldown on Flash specifically by 45 seconds, which is a lot. So this is really nice for Riven. So we're going to be using our Flash a lot. We're going to be using our TP a lot. So this is really nice to have on Riven. The only other alternative is Fearless, and like I said, I'd only go Fearless if you're up against a full AD comp and you're just going to focus on one stat, which is armor, or vice versa, which this is like really rare, but if it was a full AP comp, then you get this for the magic resist by itself. Alright, so that about covers the that about covers the Fervor. Next we're going to head into Thunderlords, and I think we can wrap things up from there. I'm not going to go over the Resolve Tree, or yeah, I'm not going to go over the Resolve Tree, because I already covered it, and it pretty much is the same for Thunderlords. And obviously we don't need to go over the Frosty Tree either, because we don't go Frosty when we have Thunderlords. So now we're going to go over the Cunning Tree. In the Cunning Tree we have Wonder and Savagery. Savagery just makes it so we do additional damage to minions, which is really nice. It makes it easier to farm. So we want to go Savagery over Wonder. Once again, we're not going to be roaming so much to the point where like we need to put mastery points into these out of combat masteries. And plus there's just much more value in these and the other masteries. Like in Savagery you get much more value out of it because you can farm a lot easier with it. So we want to go Savagery. In the next row, we don't want Runic Affinity. We're not going to be taking so many buffs that we need that. And then we have Secret Stash and Assassin. I personally go Assassin because top lane is always a 1v1 lane, so this is like free 2% increased damage when you're in top lane. But if you want the sustain in lane, like if you're up against a Renekton or a Cunning or a Teemo, you know, those really rough matchups, then you can go Secret Sash just so you have that sustain once again. So it's nice in those scenarios, but other than that, you probably want to go Assassin just because it has better value. In the next row, we have Merciless and Meditation. Obviously, you know, we're not AP, we don't have mana, we don't need to worry about meditation, so we go Merciless. And plus, Merciless gives us nice stats. We get like, I don't know, 5% increased damage, 3% increased damage, champions below 40% health. That's really nice. And then lastly, or no, sorry, this isn't lastly, but in the next row we have Greenfather's Gift, we have Bandit, and Dangerous Game. Greenfather's Gift is okay if you're playing around the bushes a lot, but I'm personally not like I play around the bushes a lot, but I personally don't play around them enough to where a Greenfather's Gift would be like valuable. So I don't use this. But it does bonus magic damage, and I don't think it's based on how much damage you have. It just straight up does 3% bonus magic damage. So don't be thrown off by that. It actually gives you really nice stats. I actually use Greenfather's Gift on Lee Sin in the journal because it's really nice because you use bushes a lot. But in the top lane specifically, we're not playing around those bushes a lot. Or I'm not specifically. If you are, then you can take this, but I don't get much value out of this, so I don't take it. Then we have Bandit. This is okay in lanes that you give up a lot of CS, like Renekton and yeah, I mean like Renekton, Cunning, you know, all the standard counter picks. I honestly don't really like this mastery very much, just because you don't get much value out of it. Like you get 1 gold per minion that you miss, which isn't very much. And you're probably not going to be auto-attacking the enemy champion very much. So the passive doesn't help too much. And yeah, I just feel like we get more value out of Dangerous Game. So I don't ever go Bandit, but it's alright if you're in a matchup where you have to give up a lot of CS. So I'd recommend it for those kind of matchups, but I personally just don't like it. And I prefer Dangerous Game. And obviously, Dangerous Game restores 5% of your missing health and mana. We don't have mana, but 5% missing health when you get a kill is pretty impactful. Like, if you're in a 2v1 scenario, you focus on one person, you kill them, you get the 5% increased health, and now you have enough health. And you should have, like, a level advantage or something like that to kill the other player as well. So, this is really nice when it's a 2v1 scenario. Just because it gives you stats that let you duel second person, which is really nice. And also, like, even in a 1v1 scenario, if you kill the enemy laner, this gives you enough HP sometimes to where you can just keep pushing and farm more minions and like push the minions in the tower relatively safely. So that's nice to have in that sense. In the next row, we have Precision and Intelligence. Honestly, like, 5% increase CDR isn't really that big of a deal, and I think 40% is honestly like fine on Riven. We don't need anything more than that. And in this case specifically, I don't really like going Intelligence just because we're taking away from other stats. Precision gives us lethality, which is really nice, especially, you know, we're going to be taking Thunderlords when we go lethality, so this is a really nice stat to have, you know, when we're going lethality. And even if you aren't going lethality, this gives you some nice, like, it gives you, at level 18, it only gives you 0.36, 1.2 plus 0.36, that's actually not that good. But it gives you 1.5 approximately lethality, and I think I did that math wrong. I definitely did that math wrong. Holy crap. But whatever. It gives you, like, you can get, like, up to, like, 3 or 4%. Or 3 or 4 lethality, which is nice, because that's 3 or 4 armor that's taken away. So that's really nice to have over the 5% extra CDR. I always go precision. I just feel like it has more value than the CDR. And keep in mind that this goes into every single auto attack. Like, you may think that this doesn't add up to much, but once again, like, this is like with Fervor. If you have 100 fights and you take away 4 more armor, you could be doing like 1,000 extra damage over the course of 100 fights, or even like 10,000 or 50,000 or something crazy like that. So it doesn't seem like much, but it starts to add up over time, which is really nice. And then finally, I already went over like when to take Thunderlords and when to take Storm Raiders. So I don't really need to go over that. But finally, we have Thunderlords, and just Wind Speakers is out of the question. You don't get much value out of that. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions, anything like that, ask below in the comment section below if you have any questions about Masteries. We're just gonna go ahead and hop right into runes. Alright guys, welcome back. We're gonna hop into runes now, and this is gonna be pretty quick. There's not too much to cover when it comes to runes, but I'll go over as much as I can. If you guys have any questions about certain quintessences or marks or glyphs, whatever, I can cover that. But for the most part, runes are pretty straightforward, so let's hop into them. Okay, so first of all, let's go over the quintessences. Naturally, we want tier 3 attack damage quintessences, and the reason we don't go like armor pen or lethality quintessences or anything like that is just that, you know, once again, attack damage scales really well with Riven. It scales percentage wise. So like the more, you know, the more attack damage you have, the more you get with your abilities, the more damage your abilities do percentage wise. So we want as much attack damage as we can get, and you know, lethality and armor pen are really situational. And you know, just raw attack damage is much better early game than lethality and armor pen. If we go lethality, if we go armor pen, we're not going to be doing any damage early. So we want the attack damage for the early game potential. And then, you know, if you want lethality or if you want armor pen, you can build into that. Yeah, you can reflect that with your build. You don't have to do that through your runes or your masteries. Or, well, you can do it through your masteries, but not specifically. Like, you shouldn't do it for your runes. So anyways, we have quintessences out of the way. We're just going to go straight up. So we'll hop into glyphs next. Glyphs are pretty simple. We want 6 flat CDR runes and 3 scaling CDR. And the reason we do that specific amount is because 6 flat, 3 scaling gives us 9.9%, which practically gives us 40% CDR with 2 items. It gives us 39.9% CDR, but you know, 0.1% CDR isn't that much. And you could say, well, why don't I just take off one of these flat CDRs and replace it with a scaling CDR? The reason we don't do that is because we want this early game potential. We want this early game CDR, so we can do much better in fights early. So we want to keep the flat CDR just so our fights go a lot smoother early. And then, you know, past level 6, that's when the scaling CDR starts getting pretty decent. So yeah, we want to do that. And if you're going up an AP champ, you just want to take out all of this and just throw in magic resist glyphs. But you should only be running magic resist or flat / scaling CDR on Riven when it comes to glyphs. That's about it. There's nothing else that we should really be running on Riven. So we have all that. Next we have our seals. For our seals, we just want to do flat armor. I personally throw in 1 scaling armor, just because you get 3 armor at level 18, which is quite a bit. And I used to do 3 scaling armor, but I feel like it takes away a lot from your early game, so I just go all flat, and then I'll put 1 scaling. Just so we get nice armor from that scaling. We get 3 at level 18, which is quite a bit. But we're not destroying our early game potential. Like, we still get a lot of armor early, and and duels won't really change much. Yeah, I mean, they don't really change much. At level 1, we're only missing like 0.80 some armor, so, and it decreases by 0.15 each level. So at like level 7, level 8, now it's even. If not ahead, we might be in like 1.2 armor or something like that. So that's why I choose that. You don't have to do that though. You can just go full flat. That's fine. And then finally for our marks, we want to go just attack damage marks once again for our scaling. You could go lethality, and I used to actually do that, but right now I wouldn't recommend going lethality marks, just because it makes your early game super weak, as counterintuitive that is, as that sounds. We're missing a lot of AD, and while we do get lethality, we're missing just raw damage. So I prefer getting the raw damage because once again it scales really well. And then if we want lethality, we can reflect that in our build. If we do it in our runes here, it's just gonna make us it's gonna put us pretty far behind. So in essence, in summary, we just want attack damage, everything, and then for our glyphs, we want flat CDR and scaling CDR, and then for our seals, we want armor, and maybe one flat or one scaling armor if we want that. But yeah, that's about it, guys. That wraps up runes, and we also already went up. We already went over masteries. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you could do me a big favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And also maybe visit my Patreon or my PayPal down in the description if you want me to get a better mic for making these kind of commentaries. That would be great. Other than that, thank you guys a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Look up to the sky where the royalty